it's got male. Oh, that's from you.
It's a black male.
It's a black male, definitely. I wonder why they sent out paper mail. They sent me an email, and they wrote. Yeah. Oh, I didn't bring my bag with me. Oh, that's so annoying. No food today.
Sorry?
There's no food today.
At all? Like in the world or just here?
No, that's what I might get remarks like that. There's food in my house, but it's not cooked. I'm not good at cooking it. Lazy.
Yeah, join the club.
Yeah.
Although, no, actually, I'm more right for doing it.
Post meditation, page 12.
Obeisance to my guru and protecting my Geshe, and also this self-description of text and knowledge of these things, all things as they are, whose understanding shines forth as the sun, unclouded by the clouds and stress of the figures, who teaches and seeks through the ways with the patient power by the force on this side. All creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confusing the darkness of the ignorance overwhelmed by this suffering. Use the abundant proclamation of the Dharma rises of this purified illusions and freezes from the iron chains of our karma. Whose powerful source of wisdom, truth, and suffering will in spite of fear. Clearing away the darkness of all ignorance. I entreat you, my Geshe, principal Buddhas in the dawn of the 112 months of the Buddha, who has completed the 10 stages of achieving the highest perfection of Buddhist life. Who has been pure from the beginning, O my Geshe, O lover one, you burning sense of wisdom, illuminate the darkness and close of my mind, enlighten my intelligence, the wisdoms, and already the insight into the Buddhist faith and the text that keeps naming.
Sanji Chulam Soji Cholam La Chanchu Badu Dani Kasichi Dani Shishingi Besanam Dola Benje Sangi Juba Shu Sanji Chulam Soji Cholam La Chanchu Badu Dani Kasichi Dani Shishingi Besanam Dola Benje Sangi Juba Shu Sanji Cholam Soji Cholam La Chanchu Badu Dani Kasichi Dani Shishingi Besanam Dola Benje Sangi Juba Shu 강기 투쟁이 돈에 따와 당시 방비체를 당주는 된지 공동체라 장세로 Good morning, everyone. Subject 이거 좀 되는 미리관이 세팅스를 subject는 subject이라 이거 좀 되는 미리관이 이거 저는 이거 좀 하고
We're going to pick up from where we left off in the previous week, starting from the second half of verse 91. Let's look at where it is in the outline. So we've been looking at a section of arresting fury towards that which hinders one's desires. We started with point B. It is unreasonable to be impatient with that which hinders the benefit directed towards oneself and one's interest. In covering the first point, it is unreasonable to be furious with that which hinders mundane interest. The first point, point A, comes under the heading of, as it is unreasonable to be furious with that which hinders one's own praise and renown. We've covered the first point. There is no need for just praise and renown. We're going to begin with point 2. It is unreasonable to seek merely mental joy.
이든 바식되는 genso changa dengosos 이일이야 니겁기 아니 가와 용어 장고 지기요나 되니 땅한지 가서 다지 쳔 무셔야 라 미기쭈 이게 미기쭈 이 쟁인기 융하기 접어만 붙이기로서 and the zone tembayina negab koran kautila yela gawa is the yungros and yela gawa chikiwa samgi mazun dedin jugiana and to so tengo chaduras or temeri what to so tengo chaduras
If I desire just mental happiness, then I should devote myself to gambling and so forth, and also drinking. So, if it is suitable to just accomplish one's own happiness through praise and so forth, which give rise in one's mind to temporary happiness, it is just as well valid to rely upon intoxicants and so forth, or other activities, such as activities or actions from the 10 non-virtues, those that produce in one's mind some means of temporary happiness. So there are those activities that are regarded as natural non-virtues, the 10 non-virtues. Many of them, those of body and speech, are motivated by some mental states. If it is possible for your happiness to be accomplished just by praise, which means that would mean temporary happiness, it would have been just as valid to say that therefore it is suitable to accomplish one's welfare or happiness through the 10 non-virtues.
그래다 저당 저치 거라는 개인스라운디 식비다 민무슨 주샤워치 속세 디비 아니야 디데 텐송기 지마무지 듀고 요레스 아니 창세디 아니 창 민무스텐 더 송도스라
As it says in this verse, if I desire just mental happiness, then I should devote myself to gambling and so forth, right? So forth indicates that the other things that could be included in the category of gambling that give rise to some form of temporary happiness, and also drinking.
Genseji, and nega pigi, and Kevin Leoni, nega tobati, Toby, two Tarana Yachik, Samia, Gama shoots, Yunguros, the D Genchi, and Jensam Dan, and Child Dog, Genchi, and Decha Contra, no, and Teleteni, Luchin, Tamadelayata, Tamandigo shoots. The
commentary to this section reads, if one's sole objective is mere mental happiness, that's at the bottom of page 35. If one's sole objective is mere mental happiness, then one also needs to rely on gambling, singing and dancing, taking someone else's women, and drinking alcohol. Which means that when we look at those activities that generate temporary happiness in one's mind, those activities can just as well lead it after that to a sense of competitiveness, jealousy, anger, and so forth, which is the source of so many problems and difficulties in our life.
And loyal in the shank met them on the sofa, and so then on the juche. The D call news, the D call news, when the Lutan cut channel, and it call news. So come a new mara, he can think it is in the career season. Beyond show us the top of the rock.
As it says here, and so forth, it says it includes different activities in the so forth section. If one's sole objective is mere mental happiness, then one also needs to rely on gambling, singing and dancing, taking someone else's woman, which means being involved in sexual misconduct, and also the drinking of alcohol. You might be wondering, why am I not supposed to do that? What's the problem with that? Like, for example, how does singing and dancing harms me? What's the problem with that?
And in Digmar song there,
After all, with respect to singing and dancing, you may think that first off, I'm not harming others, but also it gives me some temporary happiness. So what's wrong with that? Why is it mentioned here in this way? So we need to come up with a reason that explains Shantideva's intent.
Look the colors of a deity, and the Tuzen Dagage, Susu Mitziabu, Susu Tindiki, any Chola Drovina, till it loves here, till it gets a huge dreaming, never the Mitzi, and Dindisi Tony, and the Chola Drova, and that Chola, Chola shoes was, Chesan from the Chola shoes was.
If you spend your life in being engrossed in singing and dancing and so forth, if you waste your life in this way, you're wasting an opportunity to use your life in a way that would be much more effective. And if you damage your ability to be much more effective in this life, then it is detrimental to yourself.
Sam Yin Jutoji Chagosilla, and it's Chardang Yak, Ishiti Chados. That Chardang Levina, Tini, that Tamadi Tamsing Zao two dollars. Indeed, Kanji, so the Chardang Goyakchi, Chardang Goyakchi, Chardang Goyada, any Juzo Kanyobadi, Suzuki, any. Namji Yagitan 2 years. In this little Drogo, and it cut the loose on the young Gonko Devana, so someone without rage. Or Chagoras.
So, first off, there is a mental diversion or distraction that you get from singing, dancing, and so forth, but also you could say that they act as basis for developing anger, attachment, and so forth. So the main intention of this section is to prevent anger and attachment from occurring. Anger and attachment. If you're able to prevent anger and attachment from occurring, you'll have a better ability to develop wisdom and intelligence. So here, essentially, this section is speaking about how you create these foundations that you can use in order to develop a greater degree of intelligence.
Drawina. Tagaran Yogda, Yogda, Chado, any control, that Tamandu with some the Yungioras.
And of course, another thing that is mentioned here is the sexual misconduct of having a relationship with somebody else's wife or woman. So those affairs bring about states of mind such as jealousy, anger, and so forth.
That Changi, Chang Nibokundi Zawins, Sangi, Sonyores, the any Chang Tom Mitchell said, and San John Jinju Pinchi, Rajon Pumutsa Kanji Sangi, Shelaya, and Ichi, Eva Yuzimbana, Chang did not Zawin Tom Ronch.
The last thing that is mentioned in this section is drinking, the drinking of alcohol, which is, from the Buddhist perspective, it is the source for so much misconduct. And therefore, not only from the Buddhist tradition, it is something that is prohibited for monastics, also for lay people. If you can avoid that, you will accomplish a great purpose. In that sense, you can say that even if you're not a monastic, it is unsuitable to drink alcohol.
Kanji Kolaya, the new Chisavanashinki, Chang Tongli, Min Dorastera, Min Dorata, Kanji, Min Yambaji, and a Tava the Tamji can be Kombaduya, Samlo Pashani, and it's Satan Yambia, and Chambutin Dematuch.
Things that make the mind intoxicated, make your mind behave like crazy or get the mind into a crazy state. Not only it is detrimental to your own mind, creating states of unhappiness and so forth, but also it affects your relationship. Like, for example, in your personal relationship, it creates so many problems when you take up alcohol.
There's the Dindos, Mother that hit all the mom shoot and Sonyoras, Lama Kumasu, one a bit, you shoot, the thing on the third, 그 주주 means shashagins kanji sabzo shuchiba dilayan drosong mato drosong shuchimbu delaya jama showan chi pigi shuchiri chite tonya devale and dini drosong sama thelta that di drosong time made samala dini that and mavishiyari kuma koyari lo and dinil din legoras is a dessert and it's our nini and suzu mesela pashan suzu lombo konlaya di mogoyach ra dindis sound damaina and mishimbalaya is pentosigiros.
There's a lot that was said by excellent masters of the past in relation to the damaging effect of drinking alcohol and so forth. So Geshe says that we don't need to here get into an extensive discourse about the drawbacks of alcohol, but we can look at how it affects different areas of our life. Like, for example, when we develop addiction to alcohol, those who develop addiction to alcohol end up spending a lot of money in order to sustain this habit. So not only consumes your resources, but also often when you develop habits, when you develop a certain addiction, you also have to resort to other negative actions in order to sustain them, to sustain that. Some get involved with lying and stealing and so forth, all forms of misconduct in order to sustain a certain addiction or certain need to that. So we can think that not only I do not need that in my life, but you can think that I don't need that in the place that I live. So it's a good way to think about it, not only in relation to yourself personally, but also in relation to how you interact with others.
Tasumba tetsam dodun zimba shinjula yuba setri tetsam slana yi na gawat sam kebati ani ben dodun ani kicheshi yimba zimba di ani samudi norvades shinjula is
Looking at the next point in the outline, point 3 under the section that explains how it is unreasonable to be furious without which hinders your own praise and renown is point 3, grasping for merely that is erroneous. So if you just seek that, it is a mistake.
telling is Teratan, Nyanda Zamlea, and Teratani Chuada, in the Yahu Jeseg, Nyanda Zamlea, and Gobatsoni never dance. Tinji, and Teratan, Tabat, Nyanda Yamundi, Shuji, and Sampom Daddy, and pushing you the Chigwadas.
Looking at the 2 points that come under the heading of this section, there's no need for just praise and renown. In that, if it's just mere praise and renown, it doesn't give you there's no purpose in that. Just by someone praising you, or you enjoy a good reputation, just by themselves, is of no purpose. Not only that, when they decline, you become unhappy like a small child.
Tambuni, and Teta Samla, Governmebani, Trabi Tendu Nortonshi, Dani Gin Sechena, Children Namji Chishicha, Shena Tekusula Des.
When we begin with verse 92, that comes under the heading of there is no need for just praise and renown or praise and good reputation. It says in verse 92, if for the sake of fame I lose my wealth or get myself killed, what can mere words do then? Once I'm dead, to whom will they give pleasure?
And did that Chitangi Tangazu Tamabalia Depatan, Chava Choma, Nyanda Choma, Sanga Gawaki Yung yoros, thousand that Landurgunne Senamundu, Kanji, Sound Pujan, Sound Tam machine in Soviet, and it's Sosulaya, Terra Yonga, Sosu Yenda Yonga Chedu, and it's Sosula Yebu, Gunner Longa Duzayana, and a pa and in military. Some of the little kidding, the Yunguros,
Yunus Shela Patek so Tobara Waina.
Tobarayachi,
Yeah.
Yahores Laviachi.
In the world, people like being praised or being respected, having a good reputation. But then, if you don't think far away, if you don't have a far long-term, if you don't have a long-term approach with respect to what you need to take up and what you need to cast aside, and your mind is seeking praise and reputation in the way that praise and reputation work in the world, you might be also thinking of having to invest some money or resources into the praise that you get, or in order to be praised, in order to have a good reputation, in order to enjoy fame and so forth.
The dig Pujan Ringulaya, Pengiona, the Digioras, Susuli Yoga, and it's Gunnar Longa to the town, Digor, he could not didn't kill Joina. He Mepembi Bamase, and it Susulia, Negun Tana, and a saw in a short way, came in the chassis, as in the shoot, and it gave it number 10 to Chedavana, and it tell ya, Chadoking, good, dancing, good, and it never done Koran, the Chinito Tom, Legos, and was dropped.
You might have a long-term vision in getting praise or good reputation, fame, and so forth. Then for that end, you will decide to invest some money or resources in order to make that happen. But most don't do that. Most are just seeking short-term gain and honor from praise and reputation. And they're not aware of what is need to be taken up and what needs to cast aside. And that brings problems because such attitudes bring about a sense of jealousy and competitiveness. You can be harmed on that account, as this verse says, for the sake of fame, I lose my wealth or get myself killed. What can mere words do then?
And that's so deep, the independent you're no longer down by you, and Rani, especially a security is lonely, and the that Yenda pending the Chiguanza, that she Yuji Pena, and it has some Jania, Jimbatan Soba, or did it own the Chadot yes. So the Stanolia, Chadot yes, younger was, Casna, Susani, Susi me when I said, Hamchi in Sosuchi, and Yendachin, when I said that, you know, shows down the and she someone namda gunner time tondi and tell her ranching in the legos. The ditching seminal chado shudile, chado tonita, and in control than the chalos of lesson kanji, and Kevamunta meva, and Nansonia, Jordan and Guinea dream goes. In the Ranita, server chado was right.
You might be putting your resources together, money and so forth, in order to get some praise and reputation. But that involves also states of mind such as jealousy when things don't work out well for you. It might be that you will get some some praise and renown if your attitude is sincere, right? So if you have a genuine and sincere motivation and you're taking a certain action, you might be praised for them. You might acquire good reputation. But if your attitude, if your motivation is not pure, or what you're seeking is just mere gain, mere praise and renown for that, and you invest your resources in that, it is likely that you'll also have a sense of jealousy in others. And a sense of jealousy gives rise to anger and attachment, which keep you going in miserable states of existence without death and without breath.
Tere kanji ngazu ta ne dabala ya susu gunur tangchi shala ya robo chi de habun ta chi nang chudo ro yin na ani mumang ji ki robo la ten ro ani shandel da pi bangwang le ga da hindi le ten ngazu chudo sorgoras ro.
So then in terms of the way that you invest your money, your resources and so forth, you can do that in investing your money in resources and benefiting others. Or like, for example, here at these Dharma centers, we have volunteers, we have sponsors, we have patrons that choose to put their money and resources into activities that are beneficial to others.
Tiza ta nganzu ngone Koranso 이 수주기 벤줄에 마대바 아니 뒤졌다 gy었다 아니 내가 체딩 솔이야 샘띵이 아니 그지다 제스랑 친구야지 배는 간주 랭게로 왔어 간주 랭게리스 딱 그런 쪽이 gy었다 뒤졌다 등이 그런 중원에 상도 갈당 거리스 나와나 아니 수주기 민다 년다다 아니 미지기 ngosong ches mahimba ani tembachilia pensi ro som tangbaina ani susi niwasi modo lega machili ani chundilapsin teyo chagores.
So then when we think of investing our time, investing our resources, money and so forth for the sake of such activities, with that sincere approach, Geshe feels that others come to appreciate it. From outside, we need to appreciate those who do that. We develop a good idea, or a sense of respect for those who do that. So without being concerned for one's own name and reputation, if you act in such a way that is beneficial to others, if you invest your time and resources without being concerned about your name and reputation, if you do it just for one day, whatever you do during that day becomes very effective.
And it down the nyanda down and chick and me was one so mini and a sound dirty tangiomars tambaina and Suzuki Gunnar di Tsultrim trolla and rewarders. The trolla and rewarders.
So then in terms of your attitude, when you perform such activities, it's good to think that you're gonna spend whatever thing you're gonna spend, either your time or your resources, in order to make sure that that affects a good state of rebirth in your next lifetime, or for the sake of liberation and omniscience. If you do that, that's good. If you spend your time and resources in order to secure a good name, better reputation, in order for others to appreciate and so forth, you're wasting the potential of doing something that is much greater than that.
Teresa, then Ranzunguni and Delia, Chambonsha, Kuzisha, and it was so in the and it could have you down to sit down, and it's Hamilton, Kalijawi, and it shows all a robot on the Ranzunguni, Kuguchi Goes. Kelayan, something like Mikashi, Chelsea, and all of the chick, Koraming told us on Tindido love them, Zawin in Yahuyo Maris, Yahuyo Maris. Azung in the park with so soon when you been to tanging when it, young, Yangunya tend the money was, so mean tend the money was, so do sin, draw to Waina, and Yahweh Chasar was draw.
So then from our side, when we see people put the time and resources into being helpful around here, then we need to appreciate someone, the people that do them. We need to have a sense of respect for someone who does them. Without getting involved with politics, without trying to find ways to fault others, to think about their motivation. We need to have a sense of appreciation for someone that does that. And also, if you also participate in certain activities, if you contribute your time and resources and so forth, it's good to keep an attitude that is as genuine as possible, to have a sincere wish to be of benefit, rather than thinking that if I do that, others will come to respect me, they will like me, I will have a good image and so forth.
내가 지금 가도야 미망불이야 지 강한테야 하던 지 세번마기와 용대든지 내가 유르노신 간섭질이야 지 세번마기와 용대든지 인지 연구도 왔어 이제 솔직히 상만로야 크기 대re도 쇼는 솔직히 지 필이야 수수기 가서다 지 ramde ji thoni mi sum jobayna and di manju di kalishu maji bashu chagoras ra shembe ram gichedo ji dindi ji som dang tu bayna khaju cheto wati tutsu khaju tang tu wati ya and sam gaw gomech and di yobayna and sambal milo chai yungu yoris.
We do experience sometimes times that are difficult. When you work around here, not everything is easy. Particularly if you do something, if you take up a job and you do it all the time, it's not unlikely that at a certain period of your work, your mind will be unhappy. It's not unlikely to happen because we do experience difficulties. But if your motivation in taking up a certain job or taking up certain tasks is mainly involved with some form of self-interest in thinking of yourself, you will experience some forms of mental unhappiness and you will experience difficulties. Whereas if you try as much as you can to engender an altruistic intention, to wish to benefit others, Geshe reckons that if your wish is really sincere, then it doesn't matter how long you will have to do that or how hard you will need to work, it will still give you a sense of joy. Your mind will still be kept in a frame, you will still have a frame of mind that is more at ease, more relaxed.
You should be Dani is over Genas, Dodadi Tsultrim Chisha, Ranshin, Dodadi Sula, Devaki, Leber Samachaus.
Not only they are meaningless, but in order to have renown as a generous person, one gives away wealth, and to be known as courageous, one goes to war. If one then even loses one's life, what will one do with the words of praise and reputation? Consider well to whom praise and reputation will give happiness other than after one has died.
That the number of Magavi Chebad companies, Chemin Kambu Debuna, Chebanam Kachimu, Asian Perdan Tanyama, Rangisem Chebashi.
Let's look at the next section. To dislike the loss of praise and renown is childish in verse 93. It says, when their sandcastles collapse, children howl in despair. Likewise, when my praise and reputation decline, my mind becomes like a child.
어디를 배나 재민 컴퓨터 되거나 제반은 같이 두는 대신도 때마다 잡아내는 무강이 랑기 셈 제바신도 요로 무강이디.
That is rather easy. It says, children cry when the house of sand collapses or the sandcastle collapses. Similarly, my mind becomes like a child out of dislike when praise and reputation wane.
제바신도 인생이 다를 뜻이 가와라 차바 미리바다 대신 가와 인비 된니제이나 겨우 공부 가와 차리고 담보 다를 뜻이 가와라 차바 미리바니
Looking at the fourth point under the section of it is unreasonable to be furious with that which hinders one's own praise and renown. Point 4 provides the reasons why it is erroneous, and there are a couple of points in that section. It is unreasonable to be attached to the joy one feels for praise for oneself. That's the first. And the second is, if because of the joy one associates with them, praise and renown were something to strive for, then it would be reasonable for all beings who have that to enjoy them.
Dala tuji kawala chaba miriban rishi dala semiche dala tusum yemisi dala shanga shetaba then gavi gin tongues. Yeah.
Let's begin with verse 94 again, just looking at the outline. So we're looking at it is unreasonable to be attached to the joy one feels for praise for oneself. First of verse 94 says, since short-lived sounds are without mind, they cannot possibly think of praising me. It makes others happy. The fame is counted as a cause of joy.
Big sigdela and semi yomaris. The same manner and naturally debachi sambi colon di yomaras. Colon menza and delia shuji and David sigdela gagoyash kimbandoas. Kedzi big lateni and gavi guchav the slavina. And Sula Devaina, Gagoyach, Kashila Deondi, Gayaji, the Kashila Deondi, Chado Kids, Maimba, Samalia, and Gagongo is younger with us, any on with us.
Praise, this is to say, the words of the praise do not have mind. It's not that the wording of the praise, the sound itself, thinks, I will praise that person. So, you might be thinking, yeah, I agree with that, but still, it gives rise to a sense of joy in one's mind. Well, not everyone reacts in the same way to praise. While it makes some people happy, other people become jealous.
So
then the next verse, number 95, says, whether this praise is directed at myself or someone else, how shall I be benefited by others' joy? Since that joy is theirs alone, I shall not obtain even a part of it.
Rang Devi Gawayina, Rishi Devi Dala Gawa Mirikte, Hela Semichi, Da Deva Chawanyambi, Semi Yemisibi, Dela Gawa Mirisu. When the Dala Devi said, Shen Dushi de Gawayishi Taba, Dushi Gawatin, Da Gawi Kinishi Tam, Yoshan Namya, Da Ron Dushi Shen Gawati, Dala Chishi Pendi. Shenji Kadit and Tiniki Semimbi, 다기 때라 시버땅에 메트비치스.
Let's read through the commentary to this section. It says, if one is happy because of being praised, it is, for instance, unsuitable to like praising sound, because it does not have a mind that can therefore not have the thought thinking I should benefit that person. Therefore, it is unsuitable to like it. It is known that the person praising one generates joy. It is known that the person praising one generates joy at the time of praising. If this joy of the person praising is stated as the reason for one's happiness, what use is the joy of the person praising, regardless of whether others or oneself is praised? Since the joy in another's continuum is only their consciousness, one does not even attain a part of it.
니버 대신 가와 임비 전든 예시이나 기호군 가와 차리고는 니 뭐당 랑 때버 가와 치비 쩌버세보 당분원이 개디와이 다되나 공가와 대신 자거나 제대로 시안라 가와이 대원균 다음에 디스.
Let's look at the next section. Point B says, if because of the joy one associates with them, praise and renown were something to strive for, then it would be reasonable for all beings who have that to enjoy them. There are 2 points, the actual and dismissing the joy of praise for oneself as a child's play. Now let's look at verse 96 that comes under the heading of the actual point. It says in this verse, if I'm happy due to this happiness, then I must act similarly towards all. And if this were so, then why am I unhappy when others are happy due to joy?
Deshiti devayishi devayi shen devayimbi da devayino kevo konawa teshindo deda devi da deva chaguna chishi janati jagati deshiti gawayi jen devayino ela da chedar medi yi deva chagusu.
The commentary to this verse says, if the happiness of the person praising is the happiness of others and makes me happy, then I should also be happy if all other sentient beings are happy in this way. Why then, when others become happy due to the happiness of the person praising an enemy, does one become unhappy? One should be happy.
Chevi joba sebanis, ra sosola tebale gading yi, and if who the chiparis, who jobali, some mandeva dosis, or suggested.
The second point in this section is dismissing the joy of praise for oneself as child's play, in verse 97. No. Okay.
Tadirejata, Tangan Suzuki Olaya, and it's done me, Teratown, Keshi Magangich. Tangatanga, Zoni, Missing was Redos, the Gaviros, me Teratown, me Charaya would is Lavana. Can give you what is the Gaviros.
Gama. For ordinary beings like being praised. Geshe said that, for example, he likes people that say that he's a good person or that he knows doing well. So in general, ordinary people like being praised.
nganzu dioros ta komshi dugja ro susule teratanga ani mishamba piji yabu chagi yobata mishamba teratang jiuna and dela chadoti.
But then when others are being praised, we feel jealous. So we'll like it when others say that we're doing well or that we're good. We like praise, and yet when others are being praised, we feel jealous.
But these are the that the non to shoot that was that the non to shoot the teaching that monk chedi and also Changbugi the Koyang some of the Tamati and in the dig Yenjig some of the Yungu service.
Do you consider Tombo member, Kuya member? This yeah. So when we are not able to think about it honestly or sincerely, when our mind is not relaxed, we have a divisive attitude.
Kinzada o dilchigi suzuki samotandandi digmeba anchi suzulaya and the dindij model and the job made you but dindij kanji suzuki kyan tonto vaina tera kazustan madana suzulaya kevin drogmebadi hakogras suzul neda kana yaburis lavaina misi yard roshas kana dugjaris lavaina Kerang netang dug to drosas kiomaros. Tintondi, ta teratanya, and it's Tetsamgi and Gava Mevachik, ranching Lagos race.
So when you come to recognize your own mental traits, in that you come to recognize how your mind does not work in a proper way, that your behavior is not the best behavior, even when you encounter situations of being praised, you're not going to react to that in being so overjoyed. And that you're going to think that when I'm praised, it's not that it's actually changing my mind. It's not that it's making it much better. It's not that it's making my behavior much better. In that sense, if you come to really be honest about the way that your mind works and your behavior, then praise will not affect you that much. You will not become so overjoyed when you're being praised.
Yunguyoris, the rangi kyon tontubaina, rangi kyon di tone, rangi nelu ngomati, sosugi, the netse joros, Kasma, that Yondin Chechong, din tong to gross, that din tong to vaina, and Terata Madangi, Kebakai Mejuch Tungres, din tong vaina, that Terra Megavach. Himado ani teral magawa chai kalka ushuch odireshas.
One of the advice that we get in the Dharma is not to look for faults in others, but to try to recognize our own shortcomings, our own faults. And if you take it to heart and you practice it for 1 day, for 1 week, for 1 month, over time you'll be able to have a better assessment of your own faults, your own shortcomings. You'll be able to have a more accurate assessment that accords with reality of the qualities that you have as well as your shortcomings. And when you are able to have a correct assessment of your own faults, your own shortcomings, you will be disinclined to like being praised. You will not like praise, or that praise will not really affect you. But it's really hard, isn't it? Because currently we still like being praised.
Je bena the suzugi get necessary tone that didn't have storage down and it gave it Salaya, Madeva Kiados. Yungutas. When the Tanga Yamu, Danga, can I pay a gift sitting middle to the Conjung one side, till Laura Nang one side, because the Nanga Hakota, sick only, chick, so much love to go, Mara. Any I get one side.
To the point in which when you really know and understand the qualities and shortcomings that you have when you're being praised, and sometimes the praise go over the top, like you're being praised for qualities that you don't have, then rather than being happy about it, it gives a sense of discomfort, right? You feel uncomfortable about being praised in a way that does not accord with reality. Geshe says that, like, for example, sometimes he encounters people that praise him for how well he's doing in English, and he says, well, actually, it's not really correct. It's not that he's a good English speaker. So when you're able to have a really good assessment of your qualities, your shortcomings, some forms of praise make you uncomfortable. You can check it out, later on. If you happen to be meeting Geshe one day and kind of praising for in English, look at his special expression. You can see that he does feel uncomfortable about it.
It seems that the present hearing that is very low. What happens when you're in situations where with family or friends or other people around us that are really depressed, or is it skillful to sort of praise them, or knowing that really they're only getting something? That they're only getting some sort of temporary.
Okay. So since this praise that we're talking about here is something that is quite worldly, but still, sometimes when you look at the relationship with people around you, your family members, friends, and so forth, some of them, there are occasions in which they are depressed or when they feel a bit moody or unhappy and so forth. So if in those occasions you praise them as a way of at least giving them temporary relief or temporary joy to uplift their mind just temporarily, is it not okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Dila, Tora Tayandi Kabila Diji, Tora Tayan Kawala Gawadi, Jiktembe Sanotantan Resin, Jiklagiro. In a Samsung so Pingya Nyembo the Sem Shumbe Capsulayans, Imidewa Debe Capsulayan, Rola, Di Kabdila Consola Tora Tawaina, Nekab La Consotes. It's in by Gawa, then the Chikiawa and then the China Jimalvis.
Nanganzuki Dishingo does Nangi Yarum Chigi, Sonde Chivia. Then but Jinsing on the Chevata, Kansa Gensing on the Chivas, Nisungoris. King of the Jackson does.
Yes, in general, when you look at the way that Isonis makes a distinction sometimes in his teachings, he says that you need to look at a certain situation from the perspective of how it is generally explained in the teachings, on one hand, and on the other hand, how relative to a particular individual, how you should behave.
These are Jonathan David Church on the end, Kansas Suzu come the Mabel Penny. So yours. David Tara Mambushus, Chanta Tome Mambushus, yon there, Piggy come the Mabel Penny, yet Chigoyanza, Samalolaya, Piggy Yakshu di Shesa Yomaros. Or did Chibado is wrong.
The Buddha gave different sets of teachings corresponding to different individuals of different dispositions. So you can see that different levels of teachings were given, different forms of the view of selflessness were taught. There are different schools of thought within Buddhist philosophy, beginning with the low schools of thought up to the high school of thought. So the Buddha gave different sets of teachings to different individuals, which indicate that it's not that there is like one thing that is the best thing that would apply exactly in the same way to each and every individual.
And rangi tera thandul engyo mares tera toya chid lega chigiyo mares so disungyo armada shenla gawa gongores shengi yonden ta gore shenla tora tang gores dilagoras ra.
But then looking at what Shantideva is saying here, it says what Shantideva is saying here is that in your personal approach, don't actively go and look for situations that others can praise you. Don't seek praise. But still, look for the good qualities of others. Be happy about others' good qualities. Praise others.
Any shin layer yonden ta shin yonden layer te or those drawing any kio tomo mebani chadana come to assembly your drawing have actually did was right.
So in your own personal practice, look for your own faults, your own shortcomings, and look for the good qualities of others. And if you do it over time, then anger and attachment and so forth that exists in a continuum since time without beginning and up until now will be fixed. We'll make changes in our mind stream. We will diminish anger, attachment, and so forth.
Rang de batat gawa chibi choba sepani tebe dam te to si rang gawa ki gawa can te der mitebi chibi choba komaste se.
Looking at verse 97, it says, therefore, the happiness that arises from thinking and being praised is thus incorrect. It is only the behavior of the childish.
Then Jordan, Tevi Shinki, Dame, Tutushi, Rangigula, Gawakiwiko, Hey, the Genos, Yamuchonse, and maybe. Ketel, there but some Gawi give me Tevis. Tela Gawa, Chivicho, Jomokona, Sebo.
Looking at the commentary to verse 97, it says, that's not a commentary, sorry. It says, therefore, if it generates joy in one's continuum thinking and being praised, when this is analyzed, then it does not have the slightest essence. In this way, since the mere praise is not valid as a cause for happiness, one only becomes like a childish person by lacking it.
Tirada, Jeng Tevalay, who chose a melody, Jeng Te Janzo, Mate Janzo, so let's say the chief in Digoros. Chisos the Yabuza in Chig Medin Imbaina. Meet some of Kena Yaburis Lavana, Kena Hakoros. And it's also Hakoras, Yad Dubi, Delia Gagoyagi, Ginzoni Yomaros.
It says here it does not have the slightest essence, in that praise does not change you, in that it does not make you better or does not make you worse. If you know what faults you have and what good qualities you have, even when someone praises you, you know for yourself that whether it is correct or incorrect. So suppose that your behavior is negative and others are telling you how well you're doing. If you know that your behavior is negative, being praised about something doesn't really improve it doesn't really change your situation. You yourself know that your behavior is negative.
And can I Giovanna? So Yagu Giovanna, me de Jano, Made Jano, Mera Tamaini, Kevakayo Manas, di sosu no tu maras.
And similarly, if you know your good qualities and you know that you have done well, when someone criticizes you, when they slander you and so forth, if you know that you haven't done anything wrong, then also it shouldn't really matter.
Devena nibada pen dobo sambala means pen dobo sambala ni. Dota yi keche bo nandung goji yimbe tela tro meri patang siwale troji yimbe tro meri go.
Let's look at the second point in the next section. Point B, reflecting on the benefits. That point B under the section of it is unreasonable to be furious with that which hinders mundane interests. So there are 2 points. Is that which acts to hinder praise and renown also rests the lower realms. It is unreasonable to be furious with it. The second point says, as it is something that acts to liberate one from conditioned existence, it is unreasonable to be furious with it.
Tela tua meriwal ni tera la shembe nieba kunje batang hen goshi nandung goshi imbo tambo tera la shembe nieba kunje bani tera jishe la tua merikis tebatang chakpa yongyagi nyendra yongyagi gyudi ani goshi delia tua merik des so dami yonche yin yo jiwache yonden den la chado ta pusum chogo jiwache.
When we begin with point 1, is that which acts to hinder praise and renown also rests the lower realms. It is unreasonable to be furious with it. There are 2 points in that section. Grasping after praise and renown leads to the development of all wrongdoings, and that which acts to arrest that also rests the lower realms. Well, we begin with verse 98 that comes at the heading of grasping after praise and renown leads to the development of all wrongdoings, and turn to Gyaltsen Dhammadin's commentary. It begins with saying that it is unsuitable to be angry at that which destroys praise and reputation, because then we turn to the verse. Praise and so forth distract one and also destroy disillusionment. Jealousy for those with qualities and degeneration of qualities.
Jolosem, Deba the Tava the Nebaso, Tam giving me Bala, Iwacheva Yimbi, can call the Joa, Shiwacheva, Jen on the demon, Chaldota, Rangi Kyotan, Jen Puzolo, Shiwachevi, Neba Kungi, John Kusu Kuos.
Commentary to verse 98 says, it is unsuitable to be angry at that which destroys praise and reputation. Praise, reputation, and gain distract one from the virtuous objects and also destroy disillusionment with psychic existence. They also cause jealousy for others with qualities and also destroy one's virtue and the perfections of others. As such, they are the sources of all faults.
Tera Tambayina, Tera Laya, Tunyavaina, and these you carry Sam gave me Walaya, Jubalaya, Iwan Chigris, Sam gave me Wala Jumatuna, and in Kovalaya, Koval Lonjolaya, Gyojibi, Geshe, Kanjing Minjung, somebody young, Jiva Chigris. That Dichavaina, and Lang Zao Tamjilo, and Jiva Chiagi. For the rich child teaching it, Nini, Yonden the Dembala, Chadotang, rangi gewata shengi punzo ta yonden dembalo chado chiundi ani rangi gewa nyanguyore ani shengi punzo dia jamba chibi ta chi ani chado ta ani shadan sobe ani rangi 탐절로 jamba chibi nipa kunyi jongo kyodo gres.
If you like praise, if you seek to be praised, it means that your mind is distracted from virtuous objects. It brings about the sense of distraction in your mind. Not only that, if you like being praised, then your mind moves away from what is virtuous. Also, it undermines the ability to become disenchanted with samsara, which means that as a goal is to be liberated from cyclic existence, as a goal is to develop the determination to emerge from cyclic existence. When you develop this affinity with being praised, when you like being praised, it takes away from that. It undermines your renunciation. So that's one point. The second point is that it also makes your virtue decline. And you also come then to destroy others' virtues and perfections. And this is what the commentary says. Looking at the commentary, it says, praise, reputation, and gain distract one from virtuous objects and also destroy disillusionment with cyclic existence. They also call jealousy for others, which Geshe says it causes your virtue to decline. Right? Jealousy causes your virtue to decline. And qualities also they also cause jealousy for others with qualities and also destroy one's virtues and the perfections of others. As such, that is sources of all faults.
Nipa tengoshi ngandrong goshi imbanis. Kaisana ngandrong Geshe di temu lecha shedan chagdalo sofi wangi. And you did the tenita, non-regiza, Ding Goshi, and Tedan Goshi in it, non-Goshi.
And the next one says that arresting that is arresting the lower realms. Let's look at the argument. So stuff which acts to arrest that also arrests the lower realms in verse 99. So what are the causes for the lower realms? Or ignorance, anger, attachment, jealousy, and so forth. See, if you arrest ignorance, anger, attachment, jealousy, and so forth, you will also arrest the lower realms.
Tisher dagi te so ni shikse kanda nyene pa teda dan na song de dong song shi shu men.
Verse 99 reads, therefore, are not those who were closely involved in destroying my praise and delight also engaged in protecting me from falling into the unfortunate realms?
Tisher dagi te pa tan chaba so mi shik biche kansa kyang ha nyewer neba teda dan na song de no song mi cher shuba men chedar de la churches.
So then the commentary to this section says, therefore, aren't those taking great care in destroying one's praise, reputation, and so forth, engaged in protecting one from falling into the lower realms? How can one be angry at them?
Nipa sikpa le troji inbes. Nansong goshi, nandrong goshi, sikpa koa le troji. Samaris with the sikpa le troji inbe, tro meribon ni. The soul la kek cheba, sikpa le troji inbe, tro meribon. Donghar ji go, joshi inbe, tro meribon.
That brings us to the next point, which is as it is something that acts to liberate one from conditioned existence, it is unreasonable to be furious with it, which means that it destroys conditioned existence, and as such, how it is suitable then to become furious with it. There are 2 points to that section. As that which hinders present self-worth acts to liberate one from conditioned existence, from samsara, it is unreasonable to be furious with it. And the second point says, as it is something that cuts the avenues for suffering, it is unreasonable to be furious with it. Awesome. So we'll leave it here for now.
Just a quick question. When it comes to things like praise and blame, for instance, if in a situation I get blamed for something, and then at the time I don't think it was me, so I say no, oh sorry, that wasn't me. It's not really about reputation as much as I think if I just take it on and go, oh sorry, it wasn't me, then I'm like living a lie in a way, because I'm sort of saying, oh yeah, it was me, you know, but then the other person is inadvertently going to get blamed for it. So do you just sort of like, oh sorry, it was me, or do you, and just give the victory to others, you know?
So you're saying that, no, suppose that, let's say that you're being blamed for something that you haven't done.
Yeah.
So if you say, oh yeah, I apologize for that, knowing that you haven't done that, then you know you're kind of participating in the lie.
Yeah. At the time,
Whereas,
I think I was there.
yeah, just a second, kind of without increasing, kind of without adding some more details. So that, let's keep it short. So then, if you say, no, and if you say it wasn't me, then someone else might be blamed for that, right? Is that what you're saying? So, no. Question is, what's the best way?
So what's the best way? Is
Yeah.
it that you just give the victory to others?
Okay.
Sorry, if
Tadila torata mera sashwa. Sanzan dila sosola mera tanwaina. Sosola kyun mera di hako waina. Ani dina anki mares di sano tangirwa. Sosola kyun mera di hako waina. Gondas 나다가란 체스 나한테 인스타에는 깡선된다 우지 자기 말です. 야메나 디 소소라 뀨 네바디 하코네 난뀨 마레스 디 코란 뀨 레스 코란 소체바레스 라이나야 샤난 녀간된지 이런 세계로 왔어. 저는 가르치는 야사레스.
그 인슬라고 개면스. 무슨 개면?
Well, if someone blames you for something and you know that you have no fault, you don't need to accept that it's your fault. You don't need to agree that this is your fault if you know that it is not.
And Delia, Jada Sunda, Delia, Lente Gues Kiomarta, so Suzuki Mevina, and need no shall make you condas in Layadia, Chigues Kiomaras.
You don't need, in certain situations, you don't have to respond to that. So it might be that you don't have to respond to that, but also you don't need to say that I apologize. Indeed, this is my fault. If you know that it is not your fault.
Then I Geshe Lan Tambaki, Namtel Nanolia, and Geshe Lala, Gyunju Chicken, Magic, Taji, Inju, that's Shembaji Negos. And Koran Pugudi, Gisla Pugulis Lavchi, and Sonjan answers. Gisla Jetsa, Gisla Tara, Nyananchi, Nimare, Kiki Maso, Nyashi Pugus, the Bud Chimbucha, Gisla, Gitu Yawcham, Yamadi, Himani, any Canalia, Temi Gyundu Chini, North Gonda, Nipu Teros Nasa, Gisla Pugachesta.
There's a story taken from the large story of Geshe Vitampa. So he was giving teachings in a public place. A woman that wanted to create problems for Geshe Langtampa came up and with a baby. And in the middle of the discourse in a public place, knowing Geshe Langtampa was a Buddhist teacher, she handed over the baby and said, "Here, you keep him, this is your baby." So Geshe Langtampa didn't say anything, kind of took the baby, continued his teaching, and this baby grew up to be one of his disciples. Later on, a few years later, that person felt remorse for what she's done. So she came up to Geshe Langtampa and said, "Well, I apologize. That was not the right thing to do. That was a mistaken thing to do. Can I have my baby back?" He handed her the baby back. The child. Yeah.
로종 답이 야스 찬지 된비부터 로종 양면 채통이지만은 제가 강에 문도 왔으라.
So then if you think about it in terms of being a practitioner of mind training, being a practitioner of Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva of Life, you might encounter situations where you're blamed for something. It's not a problem, is it?
Thank you.
Thank you.